It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Wednesday, December 14th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful Wednesday? Yes, it's already Wednesday. We got current news from around the world, word study on the background of the Mount of Transfiguration, and health is happiness with Julius Miumo from Australia. All right, everyone, how are you doing? It is Wednesday. It is hump day, smack in the middle of the week. Just super thankful for all of you joining us here on the Morning Star Drive to start your day. Yes, we have a Wednesday message today, and last week was supposed to be Sunseek's video. I am not sure. I haven't seen any announcements yet of what's going to actually happen for this week, but it's possible it's going to be a video or it could be a head leader speaking too. So let's just see what happens, what the announcement is for this too. But normally it's supposed to be the first and third week of every month is supposed to be Sunseek's video. So let's see what happens there. And, if anything, I just want to remind everyone, keep liking, keep commenting. Want to hear from you guys. See how you're doing. What's going on in your world right now. Write your questions, requests, testimonies, whatever it is. But ultimately, our goal, the purpose of this platform is to have a place where we can build a community. SoundCloud or YouTube. Just leave your likes or comments. We're going to see all of those things too, all right? Tomorrow is Question Answer Thursday, so I hope that you guys have any types of questions. Go ahead, leave them in my comment section or my DMs or whatever it is, and I would love to answer your questions as much as I can, all right? So, yes, it is Wednesday. Super thankful we made it this far. It's December 14th, guys. It's the middle of the month, as crazy as that sounds. We have 2 weeks before the end of this year and 2023 starts. It is the year of blessing. It is a brand new history that's going to start 2023. And I hope that all of us can really not just end 2022. Let's end this big time slot, right? From time times, half times, all the way to, those who go until the 1335 are blessed, right? And it is a blessed time for all of us, but let's just end all the stuff, good or bad. Let's just put it aside, compartmentalize it, whatever it is, so that we can be ready for 2023. So super excited and happy about this. For me, I'm also happy because finally I just booked my last hotel for my parents' trip. Super happy that we can get that done. I did go over the budget by about 10%, so it's actually not that bad at all, only 10%. But the reason I went over 10% is because I am just very, very grateful and thankful. My parents, it's going to be like a last big trip for them, and I just want it to be super memorable. So I am hoping that they will enjoy their time there. Okay, so I'm super happy about that. But over the budget, it's okay. It's okay. And my parents are they're okay with being a little bit over budget also. And I don't know. I'm just happy. Super, super thankful and happy spending that this time with my parents for about 20 days, right? And I've already lived with them for 10 months even before this, so I'm cool with them. I don't mind traveling with them and talking with them and stuff too. So it's going to be a good trip. Some people are asking me why I did this poll. How much money do you need to be comfortable? Some good comments on this too. And people talking about in their country's money also. But it looks like 62% of the people want to make somewhere in the range of 100K, like USD, which means I think in some other countries, like say in Malaysia, even that is pretty high number to be even 100,000 ringgit. Or I was talking to Youngse, and her comments was talking about, even having extra 100,000, that's a lot for Africa, 100,000 rand, not even USD. If it was USD, I'm thinking they'd be very, very rich if they had 100,000 USD per year, right? So, but we look at 62% of the people want somewhere around 100K a year, and if you think, just want to let you guys know, I live near some political building, and there's always, it's not even police where there's bad things happening. They're all escorting the politicians out. So that's why you're always going to hear these police sirens and stuff like that too. But back to the poll, 100K is 62%. So that you're looking roughly around anywhere from I would say 75 to 150K. That's I think it's kind of somewhere in that range, right? So, That's kind of cool. I think that's a pretty good number too, especially in this day and age. That's a good number. Number two is quite interesting. Is so far off. Well, not so far off. It's 250K USD, right? It's 12% for 250K and 12% are commenting. So you guys can take a look at the YouTube comments too to see how much people are talking about too. So that's kind of interesting also. And then 9% is at 50K, which is, personally, I still think people can live off 50K. No, even a family can live off 50K US a year. And then 6% is at 500,000 or probably higher than that too. So that's quite, I would be happy. It would be nice to have 500K a year. But would it not be comfortable if it was under 500K? And I'd be no, even if it was 400, I'd be comfortable. 300, comfortable. 200, comfortable. Yeah, around there too. So that's quite interesting. Now, the reason I brought this up is because even in my head, I don't, when I was younger, like, running for Providence, I don't think much about money. When I was young, running for this history, money was the last thing on my mind. But now that I've grown older, I realize more importance to it, right? And I think this is a good thing, especially when we're growing up, becoming wiser and getting more experience, because when you see like career members or family members, they're spending a lot of time making money because it's really, really important, right? So imagine you're in a situation when I'm super young and a leader, and all I think, I don't think money's a big deal, so I don't really make that much, and I don't really care how I live. I don't care if I don't have all the things that I want. I don't have kids or a wife or anything else like that, right? And when you think about that, if you didn't really care much about money, then you might think it's really weird. Why are they focusing so much on money? Why are they so physical? But reality is, the older you get, you realize how important this physical finance is also, right? And I do look at myself now, and I realize to myself also is we also need to prepare the younger generation of kids to be financially sound for the future. Because I was running full-time all my life, right? And when you run full-time all your life, you don't make much money. You're living with 5 people at a time always. You don't always get the things that you want. And honestly, I was still happy back then. But I don't realize, like when it comes to Providence, all the things that we're doing for the sake of the future, right? The reason why we pray, the reason why we fall in love with God more and more, the reason why we do righteous work is all for the sake of doing better for this history, right? And for our future sake of going to heaven. And I think that we also, we have to install that into the minds of younger people. So now, I'm not like financially well off, but I'm more stable. Like, as crazy as it sounds, I'm more stable now than I was when I was running full-time Providence. And now that I'm more financially stable than I was when I was running for Providence, which doesn't say much, and I was running for Providence for 20 years plus, right? I realized the difference in the mindset I have. So let me give you an example, okay? And what are the problems we have when you have full-timers that are just fully relying and they're only thinking about making money through support from the churches? As much as people may not understand this, we feel, because we're getting support from the church, there's some burden there because we have to do for the church. But we also feel full-timers feel indebted, right? And it's kind of like we're working for money in some sense. Like, what does that mean, right? For instance, if a church is paying me or supporting me for something, then I feel pressure and I feel indebted that I have to have fruits, like the fruits that they want, right? And the thing that's the most scariest thing about being a full-time runner is what happens if you're no longer wanted, right? And if you're not suitable for the job, then you have no support, you have no job, and you're stuck with nothing, which means that you start putting yourself into missions and positions that are not even suitable for you, because if you don't run for the church, you don't get paid. So there's kind of no other way to think, but eventually comes to the point you're working for money in some sense because you don't want to lose that job. So you're trying to make people happy more than doing the right thing. But now that, I have my own support, I'm slowly making my own money. When churches or when countries are asking me to come over, I'm very, very clear about what I can do, what I want to do, what I'm not going to do, right? And like when I was in Malaysia 2 years ago, I worked for the world on this one thing. I was just doing public speaking for 3 days, and the total was like 6 hours. I got paid how much I get for 2.5 months in Providence at that point. That's how much I got paid in 6 hours. So 3 days of work, 2 hours each. Oh no, it was 4 hours each. So it's like 12 hours. In 12 hours of work, I was getting 2.5 months support. right, than what I normally got from a church, whatever it is, right? So it's very, very interesting now that, I'm not reliant on like church support. I don't have to do everything they tell me. And if I don't like it, I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? Like I'll have my own lines that I set. And if they're like, well, we're not going to pay you, I'm going to be like, that's fine. That's fine. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do it. This is something that I'm doing out of my volition, my sacrifice, that I could be doing other things, but I choose to do this. But instead of looking at how much money or how much support I'm getting, the things that I look at more than this is what? I'm looking at how I am treated. I'm looking at how the church runs. I'm looking at how leaders make decisions. I'm looking at communication. I'm looking at a bunch of different things altogether that makes me choose and not choose certain things, right? And for me imagine if I was so reliant on that support, then I would have no choice but to do it, or else I'll have no other option, right? But when I think about it even more deeply now that I make some money on the side now, is I don't have to do everything they tell me. I don't, right? And if I don't have to do every single mission if it's out of my job scope, because I don't have uncertainty of finance. When they say you're cut, then I'm going to be like, oh no, what do I do now, right? And that's one of the things I hated about being full-time Providence and traveling around is there comes a point where you may have no options and you'll have no choice but to do something you don't want to do anymore, right? And now that I kind of see the importance of finance in my life, I'm like, imagine if you have enough money, you're only going to do the things that you feel you are best suited at. You'll do the things, or you'll try new things only because you want to try them, not because if I don't do it, I have no more support left, right? And I realize it's so much bigger now than just support, where in the past, it was only about running Providence and nothing else, living below the poverty line, and living in such a state, one of the things that I thought was kind of strange is when for head leaders pay is compared to minimum wage in some countries, and some of them are getting paid under minimum wage. And on top of that, not just looking at a head leader's salary, comparing it with minimum wage. And other places they're comparing it with what salaries do people get straight out of university. Which means that's how much we are valuing the head leader position, where it's equivalent to coming straight out of university or getting minimum wage, right? And I think that's it kind of shows how much we really value head leading. But like I said, I'm not going to just look at one side. But I also understand is on the flip side is a lot of our head leaders are not qualified. A lot of our head leaders may not have the skills to do it. And, or maybe we've been burnt by a lot of head leaders in the past, and that's why we're very cautious in how much money that we're giving to these head leaders. So I do understand that side also, but I do think it's something that we do need, that we have to work on as Providence in general, each country, each culture, whatever it is, we all do need to work on it, or it's going to become something that's become very, very difficult for us to see a bright future when it comes to leadership. So this is kind of one of the reasons, some of the big reasons why I start talking about finance, what is comfortable for you. But I'm very grateful and thankful that you guys are answering it very, very honestly too. Tomorrow there should be a new talk about my broken rear window, and I will record this. Trust me, guys, I will do it. I will. All right, so let's get into some member music from around the world. And who's today's feature artist of the day? It's going to be Rapture Collective from Australia. This is both Julius and Daniel Patterson, or MC One Love. And this is their brand new song that just came out called Me and My Squad. So looking forward to this song too. Then we have Man and Groom from the Paper Music Associates in Korea with Cold Summer. And we'll end things off with Renee Lai from Taiwan with the cover of GEM. And the song is Ing.
It's me and my squad. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, it's me and my squad. 7 strands of rope in a knot. I'm not on my own, better leave us alone. I got God, the Spirit, the Son, Jesus the one, the angels of heaven and the block behind me.
We go until the end, unending, won't catch us slipping. When it's game time, Holy Spirit assist. Ask for strength and multiplies. When spirits involved, problems resolved. New strength and resolve, no limits dissolve. You thought it was over until we called Jehovah. When my squad shows up, it's game over.
Don't cry for me. Cry for yourself. Me and my squad.
다가오면 기대되는 휴가 여름철만 다가오면 짜증나는 더위 끈적끈적한 여름엔 필요해 차가운 아이스크림 같은 한여름밤의 꿈 빨리 안 먹으면 녹아서 끈적끈적해져 like hot summer with mosquito 뜨거운 여름만 다가오면 싫지만 괜스레 두근대는 이 기분은 뭘까 요즘 비가 오면 듣는 빗소리가 좋아 요즘 짝을 찾는 매미 소리도 좋아 시끄러운 매미 소리 밑에 가려진 매미들의 숨가쁜 사랑 노래 괜스레 얼굴이 빨개져 뜨거운 태양처럼 이젠 기대돼 다가올 여름이
여름밤은 너무 더워 우릴 살려줘 열대야가 우릴 삼켜서 we will go 집에서 에어컨은 냉방병 걸려 갈 사람 저요 갈 사람 너요 여름밤은 너무 더워 우릴 살려줘 열대야가 우릴 삼켜서 we will go 집에서 에어컨은 냉방병 걸려 갈 사람 저요 갈 사람 너요
현장만 끝에 조금 처해지는 핫서머데이 떠나볼까 젊은 날에 좋은 자리 있으면 좀 잡아도 꽉 막힌 도로여도 오늘은 기분이 설레네 계획은 딱히 없고 몇 시간 달린 후에 바닷가에 시원하게 발부터 담가 붙잡고 파도를 삼켜 또 모래성을 쌓아 석양 아래 바다 와 모래알이 너무 예쁜걸 느새 떠윈 잊었고 굳이 여자 없이 우리끼리도 즐겁네 그래도 저기 걸어오는 너희는 너무나 예쁜 거 아쉬움 뒤로 한 채 우리 내년에 기약하자고
여름밤은 너무 더워 우릴 살려줘 열대야가 우릴 삼켜서 we will go 집에서 에어컨은 냉방병 걸려 갈 사람 저요 갈 사람 너요 여름밤은 너무 더워 우릴 살려줘 열대야가 우릴 삼켜서 we will go 집에서 에어컨은 냉방병 걸려 갈 사람 저요 갈 사람 너요
别怕漫长的黑夜，抬头看看星星，此刻正脸呈现。也许是一场考验，看散落的心灵，此刻是否并肩？当你祈祷能看见奇迹，你是否相信？那答案就是你。你是最平凡却最温暖的天使，此刻风雨里，可惜有你的坚持，你带泪的笑容，有天会带来雨后的彩虹，世界因为你在痛里有感动。多少次沿路颠簸，多少大雨滂沱，我们都曾度过。尽管会怕会难过，同舟的你和我，才不必退缩。当你祈祷能看见奇迹，你是否相信？ 却最温暖的天使。此刻风雨里，可心有你的坚持，你带泪的笑容，有天会带来雨后的彩虹。世界因为你在痛里有感动。
And that was Renee Lai from Taiwan. That is a cover of GEM, and that song is called Angels. Before that, Man and Groom from PMA in Korea with Cold Summer. And of course, feature artist of the day, that's Rapture Collective from Australia with Me and My Squad. All right, so let's get into some news going on around the world. And of course, as brides of this history, we have a responsibility to pray for this world. But in order to pray for the world, we need to know what is going on. So, what has been happening around the world? Let's start off with Australia, as 6 dead in shooting at remote Australian property. 6 people, including 2 police officers, have been shot dead after a suspected ambush at a remote Australian property. Police said they had been searching for a missing person in Weambilla, which is 270 kilometers west of Brisbane, Queensland, when they were fired upon. After a lengthy siege, 3 suspects were fatally shot by police. A motive remains unclear, authorities said. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese called it a heartbreaking day for Australia. 4 Queensland police officers initially went to the property on Monday afternoon local time after a request from New South Wales Police. Constables Matthew Arnold and Rachel McCrow, both under 30 years old, were shot dead as they approached. Another officer suffered a bullet graze, and the 4th escaped the property. An unnamed neighbor, 58 years old, was also killed by the suspects during the siege after going to investigate, and Queensland Police Commissioner Katarina Carroll described it as an unimaginable tragedy and the force's largest loss of life in a single incident in many years, and those officers did not stand a chance. The fact that 2 got out alive is a miracle, she said after visiting the scene on Tuesday. Arnold and McCrow were relatively new to the police force, but both had earned a reputation for being committed and courageous. A group of 16 local officers had bravely tried to rescue the pair, hoping they were still alive, before the specialist police arrived and took over the operation. The siege continued for hours before the suspects, 2 men and 1 woman, who have not been named, were shot. With investigations ongoing, they said they couldn't say if police were lured to the property or comment on a possible motive, but they said many weapons were used during the incident. Local media reported that the officers were ambushed, and Queensland Police Union president alleged they were killed in cold blood, and they were met by gunfire, which was just relentless. And they were basically executed. Local MP David Littleproud said the attack had left his community numb, and these are small country towns where this sort of thing just doesn't happen. The deaths will be investigated by the coroner, and the police response will be examined by the force's Ethical Standards Command in line with standard practice. So prayers go out. This is crazy, all the stuff that's happening. We just had a shooting yesterday in Italy also, just like in broad daylight at a cafe. Second news, this is in crypto. Big news has come out. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried arrested in the Bahamas. The Bahamas police have arrested Sam Bankman-Fried, founder of the collapsed cryptocurrency exchange FTX. The country's attorney general has said he will appear in a magistrate's court in the Bahamas on Tuesday, authorities in the Caribbean country said. Police said Mr. Bankman-Fried was arrested for financial offenses against laws in the U.S. and the Bahamas. And last month, FTX filed for bankruptcy in the U.S., leaving many users unable to withdraw their funds. It is unclear how much people who have funds in the exchange will get back at the end of bankruptcy proceedings, though many experts have warned it may be a small fraction of what they had deposited. The FTX exchange allowed customers to trade normal money for cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, and Mr. Bankman-Fried will be held in custody pursuant of our nation's Extradition Act, the Attorney General of the Bahamas said in a statement. Earlier this evening, Bahamian authorities arrested Samuel Bankman-Fried at the request of the U.S. government based on a sealed indictment filed by the SDNY, which is a southern district of New York, and they expect to move to unseal the indictment in the morning and will have more to say at that time. Wall Street regulators also said that they would be taking action against Bankman-Fried, and they said, we commend our law enforcement partners for working to secure the arrest of Sam Bankman-Fried in the Bahamas on federal criminal charges, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's official Gerber Grewal said in a statement. The Securities and Exchange Commission has separately authorized charges relating to Bankman-Fried's violations of our securities law, which will be filed publicly tomorrow in the Southern District of New York. Bankman-Fried's lawyer did not immediately reply to a BBC request for comment. FTX, the owner and operator of the FTX.com cryptocurrency exchange, was founded in 2019. Bankman-Fried was a former Wall Street trader and ex-Google employee. Bankman-Fried was a former Wall Street trader, and ex-Google employee Gary Wang started this FTX together, and it became the second largest crypto exchange in the world, trading at about $10 billion of cryptocurrencies a day. Bankman-Fried was once viewed as a young version of legendary U.S. investor Warren Buffett, and as recently as late October had a net worth estimated at more than $15 billion, and he had become well known in Washington, D.C. as a political donor, supposedly supporting pandemic prevention and improved crypto regulation. But on November 11th, FTX filed for bankruptcy protection after users pulled $6 billion from the platform in 3 days, and rival exchange Binance abandoned a rescue deal. At the same time, Bankman-Fried resigned as FTX's chief executive, and according to a court filing last month, FTX owed its 50 largest creditors almost $3.1 billion. And in a series of interviews and public appearances in recent weeks, Bankman-Fried has acknowledged that mistakes were made at the firm, but sought to distance himself from accusations of illegal activity. The collapse of FTX came during a tumultuous year for the cryptocurrency industry. This year, Bitcoin has lost more than 60% of its value, while other cryptocurrencies have also slumped. So, not very good news over there. Hope, I'm so thankful I did not invest in that exchange. So, very, very thankful to God for that. So, I know there's some people out there have lost hundreds and even millions of dollars from that FTX exchange. All right, last but not least, we'll go to Iran, right? So Iran carries out second execution over protests. Iran says it has publicly hanged a 23-year-old in what is a second execution linked to the recent anti-government protests. Majid Reza Ranavard, 23 years old, was hanged early on Monday in the city of Mashhad, the judiciary said. A court convicted him of enmity against God after finding he had stabbed to death 2 members of the paramilitary Basij resistance force. Ranavard was hanged just 23 days after his arrest. Human rights groups have warned that protesters are being sentenced to death after sham trials with no due process. His mother was not told of the execution until after his death. His family were then given the name of a cemetery and a plot number. When they turned up, security agents were burying his body. Opposition activist collective 1500 TESTIFY tweeted that the family were telephoned by an official at 7 a.m. local time and told, "We have killed your son and buried his body in this cemetery." The judiciary's Mizan news agency said Ranavard was hanged in the presence of a group of Mashhadi citizens and posted several pre-dawn photographs reportedly showing the execution. In the images, a man could be seen hanging from the cable in front of onlookers, and it's not clear how many people have attended the execution or who they were. Ranavard was denied a lawyer of his choice for his trial. The lawyer he was given did not put up a defense. Mizan had previously reported that he was accused of stabbing to death 2 members of the Basij on a street in Mashhad on November 17th. The Basij is a volunteer force often deployed by Iranian authorities to suppress dissent. Mahmoud Amiri Moghadam, director of Norway-based Iran Human Rights, said on Twitter that Ranavard's sentencing was based on coerced confessions after a grossly unfair process and a show trial. The women-led protests against Iran's clerical establishment were sparked by the death in custody of Mahsa Amini, 22-year-old woman who was detained by morality police on September 13th for allegedly wearing her hijab or headscarf improperly. And they have spread to 161 cities in all 31 provinces and are seen as one of the most serious challenges to the Islamic Republic since the 1979 revolution. Iran's leaders have portrayed the protests as riots instigated by the country's foreign enemies. However, the overwhelming majority of protesters have been unarmed and peaceful. A video broadcast by state TV after his arrest on November 19th showed Ranavard blindfolded with his left arm in a cast. And in the footage, he said he did not deny attacking the Basij members, but did not remember the details because he had not been in the right state of mind. State TV also showed on Monday what it said was his subsequent confession before Revolutionary Court, and activists say Iranian state media routinely broadcast false confessions by detainees that have been coerced through torture and other ill treatment. Later on Monday, the EU sanctioned Iranian state TV and its director for broadcasting forced confessions, and it also imposed sanctions on Iran's army chief and regional commanders of the Revolutionary Guards over the repression of protesters. Iran has said it plans to sanction several German and British political figures who have denounced Tehran's actions, and the first execution of protesters took place last Thursday, triggering international condemnation. Mohsen Shakari, who's also 23, was convicted of enmity against God after being found to have attacked a Basij member with a machete in Tehran. So far, at least 488 protesters have been killed by security forces, and 18,259 others have been detained, according to the human rights activist news agency, and has also reported the deaths of 62 security personnel. Iran is second only to China in the number of executions carried out annually. So let's just hope that there's something that comes out of this one, that there will be a lot of big change in Iran, but that is crazy. Public hangings is still happening in the world right now. This is like what? We're in the 21st century? This is crazy. It really, really is. And I'm so shocked by this, but that's something that I think all of us really need to pray for, okay? So let's move into some sporting news with the World Cup. Of course, tonight. Well, I think it'll be today. Yeah, it is today. Early in the morning for me, it's like 3 a.m. It's Argentina versus Croatia. That's going to be the semifinals. And I can't watch it because it's 3 a.m., right? It's just way too early. But excited to see what will happen with Messi. Let's see if anything will happen with him. I am rooting for, actually, I have no one, Argentina and Croatia. I don't really care who wins in that game. The other game, it's France and Morocco. And I'm rooting for Morocco. I really am. This underdog Cinderella team, so. But if you look at some of the teams that just got recently knocked out, let's look at the future of some of the teams of these national squads. Look at the U.S., right? So the U.S. men's national team was the youngest team at the World Cup, and they made the round of 16, and they went toe-to-toe with both England and the Netherlands. So the results don't really show it, but this was kind of America's best performance at a World Cup since America started qualifying for World Cups again in 1990, and most of that comes down to the massive increase at the top end of the talent pool. But the coach, Berhalter, deserves plenty of credit, right? The manager's job is to get the talent to play up to its capabilities, and that's what happened in Qatar, and this team did not underachieve. So I think they're going to keep going, and they have a very, very bright and hopeful future. England, they did what they always do. They get bounced in the quarterfinals. On the other hand, England probably outplayed the defending World Cup champs and totally shut down Kylian Mbappe, right? And the match was relatively even when you strip out the penalties. And I think England created enough constant pressure to create at least one of those penalties. And ultimately, they lost because the France goalkeeper, Hugo Lloris, turned back the clock, made crazy saves. And, man, like they had some great players just doing like once in a lifetime stuff. So one of the, and Harry Kane, one of the best penalty takers in the world, smashed a penalty kick into the stands, right? So that's kind of very rare that happened. But I think England looks like they're in good hands. It might be Harry Kane might have one more World Cup in him too. Brazil, on the other hand, even 2018, even like almost every World Cup, we think Brazil has the best team in the world every single time. Like Neymar, this is probably his last World Cup at his peak, right? At his peak where he's doing his best. But next year, are you worried? No. Brazil is going to come out with another incredibly talented team next year, too. They are. Next time. 2026, they're going to have another incredibly talented team. And, I don't think Brazil's going to be in any position to feel like they're in a bad position. Yes, they got a little bit too early. They were the favorites. But honestly, I really think that Brazil, they're going to be good every single year, no matter what. They are, right? So that's kind of the things I would think about when it came to the World Cup. In second news, look at the NFL. It's week 14, a bunch of games that have happened. Baltimore beats Pittsburgh with a third-string quarterback, so that's pretty crazy, 16-14. Big upset. Like, here's a game. Minnesota Vikings, they're like 10-2, whatever it is, right? Or 11-2, whatever. Kirk Cousins throws for 425 yards, 2 TDs. Justin Jefferson, 11 catches, 223 yards, and they lost to one of the worst teams, Detroit, 34-23. So kind of feels bad on the defensive side there. Jacksonville beats Tennessee, which is another upset, 36-22. Philadelphia just smashes the Giants. They're at 12-1 now. Sanders runs 17 carries for 144 yards, 48-22. It was just a blowout. Buffalo beats the New York Jets 20-12, but I have to say the Jets look really good. Cincinnati defeats Cleveland 23-10. Deshaun Watson kind of coming back, 276 yards passing, 1 TD. But of course, Joey Burrow, 239 yards, 2 TDs. Jamar Chase, 10 receptions, 119 yards. You can't stop that combo. Dallas barely ekes by the Houston Texans, which is really shocking because Dallas should be way better than that. Kansas City defeats Denver 34-28. San Francisco obliterates Tampa Bay 35-7. Carolina defeats Seattle 30-24. And the LA Chargers, great game. Well, not a great game, actually. It wasn't that great. They're 23-17. Who did they play again? I don't even have it written in my notes, but I just watched it too. It was the Chargers versus another pretty good team. Oh, it was it? I forget. Doesn't matter. It's the Chargers. I have their hat because it's the first NFL game that I ever watched. But yeah, 23-17, another win for them. In NBA news, what's happening? Let's take a look at some of the standings that are going on right now. In the East, top 3 teams is Boston, Milwaukee, and Cleveland. Cleveland being the surprise there. But the West is completely open. It is. Number 1 team is New Orleans. Who would have thought? They're number 1. Memphis is number 2, and Denver is number 3. So the West it's the wild, wild West. It's just an open showdown, and they are not very far from each other, right? They're not very far from each other. Even like the Lakers, who are in like 10th or 9th place, they're only like 4 games back, which is nothing. 4 or 5 games back, which is nothing. When it comes to leaders and points, Luka Doncic of the Mavs, he's 32.9 points a game. He's leading. Giannis with 31.1. And here's a surprise. Sean Gilgeous-Alexander from the OKC Thunder, 30.8 points a game. He's doing awesome. In rebounds, Anthony Davis has just shot up the charts. He's number 1 with 12.4 rebounds. Clint Capella with 12.2 and Rudy Gobert with 11.8. And in assists, Halliburton, I think a second-year player from Indiana, 11 assists a game. He's awesome. Trae Young with 9.6 and Nikola Jokic, who is a center, is at 9.1. All right, so there it is, guys. That is the news from around the world and sporting news. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. But you know what that means. It is the golden time. And yes, it is the golden time, a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. Hope all of you guys are looking forward to giving glory to God and the Holy Spirit. So, what are we going to praise and worship today? We're going to start off with Go Higher and Higher. Then we'll go into Hero, and we'll break things down with the Korean version of the song, I Have Only God. So, as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
You are dazzling, led by the Holy Spirit. You are changing in the best way. Look at me. I'm dazzling, led by the word of truth. I know my destiny is changing. Go higher and higher while throwing out my thoughts. Go higher and higher, taking action on His will. Go higher and higher, beyond the limit. That's how I can really truly love myself in the best way. We are transformed. We are awesome for sure. Let's climb the highest heights, go higher and higher.
Don't stop and just keep going.
Transform me, awesome me, go higher. Na 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 na.
Yeah. Look at you, look at me. Everyone is shining. That's the walls that block you and me. With the Lord, we'll break right through them. When we can do no more, the secret is do one more. There are no limits here. We're not with no limit. Don't stop, it just keep going. You changed a lot, so gotta keep growing. Started from the bottom, now we're going to the highest. The Lord, He takes me to the Trinity.
Rise up all the rest, go high. Changing for the best, go high. Rise up higher and higher while throwing out the thoughts. Go higher and higher, taking action on His will. Go higher and higher, beyond the limit. That's how I can really truly love myself in the best way. Free up, transformed. We are awesome for sure. Let's climb the highest heights, go higher and higher.
Don't stop and just keep going.
Transforming awesomely. We have transformed. We are awesome for sure. Let's climb the highest heights, go higher and higher.
Don't stop and just keep going.
Transforming awesomely. Go high. Rise above the rest.
Go high,
Changing for the best.
go high,
Rise above the rest.
go high,
Changing for the best.
go high,
Rise above the rest.
go high,
Changing for the best.
go high,
Rise above the rest.
go high.
Transforming awesomely higher. Since for now I'm still too young, I can't do it alone. The Lord's word is the best, it's perfect, but still the world won't acknowledge Him. Though I live in this cool world is too cold for me. Am I different or am I strange? What's special about my life? I can hear a voice that's calling from somewhere. We can change ourselves again. I'm set on fire, my body surges with power. Don't forget this day. I can be the hero. You can be the hero, yeah. We can be the hero. And as one, we'll turn the world upside down. I can be the hero. You can be the hero, yeah. We can be the hero. You and me, we are the owners of history.
I've had it. I've been told I'm not enough so many times. My ears bleed. We know we can get it done. Please hear what we are saying. Friends, worthy things, those are not even problems. So a Satan is not a problem. We can knock him out for sure. We are growing every day. We are becoming the Lord's army. Only the Lord. How can we say it's hard and it will work out? With the Lord, we'll move ahead and always go forward.
This world's full of signs, but no destination. This chaotic world just confuses me. Their words won't remain, they will melt like snow. And then the truth will be revealed at last. I can hear a voice that's calling from somewhere. We can change ourselves again. I'm set on fire, my body surges with power. Don't forget this day. I can be
나는 하나님의 사랑입니다. 나는 하나님의 신부입니다. 그는 나를 택하셨고 나 또한 마음 정했으니 나는 하나님 뜻을 지켜갑니다.
나는 하나님의 사랑입니다. 나는 하나님의 신부입니다. 그는 나를 택하셨고 나 또한 마음 정했으니 나는 하나님 뜻을 이뤄갑니다. 그러니 나의 여호와 하나님이시여 나를 이끄소서. 하나님만 부르며 말씀대로 행합니다. 그의 권세와 능력을 다해 나를 도우시고 그의 권세와 능력을 다해 날 지키시니
And that was Pastor Jones' version of I Have Only God. So what a great song. First, it's just different when you hear it in the original language. Our English version is really good too, but the original is just so different. It's really, really moving and inspiring too. So I love it. I got to play some more of those original versions too. And if you guys have any of them, go ahead and send me the files if you have the original Korean ones too. Before that was Hero, and of course, Go Higher and Higher. All right, so now that the time of praise and worship is done and our hearts are made ready, let's get into today's word study. And today I want to go into specifically the Mount of Transfiguration. Right, this is like basically this week's scripture in Matthew chapter 17. Jesus takes Peter, James, and John with him and led them up a high mountain. They were all alone, and then he was transfigured before them, right? So very, very amazing thing. You get to see, like they even look at Jesus talking with Moses and Elijah. It's just one of those supernatural events that happened way back in the past, all right? So let me kind of get into the background of the situation so we understand why this moment was so important, right? The one thing you have to know about the transfiguration of Jesus, this is actually a biblical event that appears in every gospel, right? And it's in each of the gospel books as an important moment in the life of Jesus and evidence of his divinity. So after Jesus during his lifetime, series of miracles, foretells his own death, and then Jesus leads the three closest disciples, Peter, James, and John, to a high mountain. And this is where the transfiguration takes place, in which his appearance was radiantly transformed. So they're probably looking at his spiritual form. Now, the transfiguration of Jesus was a powerful demonstration of his divine nature and manifestation of his glory, which Jesus possessed prior to coming to earth in the human body. Now, this is coming from the Christian perspective, right? So Jesus possesses this, right? And when the Christian, when you hear from the former faith saying that Jesus possessed this power prior to coming to earth in the human body, that's basically talking about the original entity, the Holy Son's original entity, talking about that. And then the human body is obviously the representative. So this revelation is referenced in a passage in the Apostle Paul's message to Philippi. And basically Paul says, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to equal with God, but made himself of no reputation and took upon him the form of a servant and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. Wherefore, God also highly exalted him and gave him a name which is above every name, and that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow, of things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. That's Philippians chapter 2, verses 5 through 11, right? So you're seeing that, this is something where Jesus gets to show his divine nature, his divine power. And do we know if that's going to be the Holy Son or Jesus? We're not sure about that yet, right? But we do know that for us, we understand the difference between the original and the representative, right? So why was this so important, right? Why was this so important? So it's very, very hard for us to fathom how important the transfiguration is, right? And you have to look at the background of the situation, factor in the reality that this amazing scene takes place a few days after Jesus had for the very first time told his disciples he was going to die. So think about that situation. Few days before, he just told them, I'm going to die. And when you look at Matthew 16:21, he told the disciples, I'm going to die, and they were offended. Peter stood up, grabbed Jesus and said, far be it from you to die. It can't happen. And Jesus was, of course, upset with Peter and told him, you saved, behind me, Satan, right? You're not thinking of what God is thinking. You're thinking of only what man is thinking, right? So that scene was just a couple of days before this transfiguration. So if you look at the timeline of Jesus' three years on earth, this is about 3 years into his 3.5-year ministry, right? So it's very, very close to the end. And this is after, for months and years, those disciples who were with Jesus had followed. They had seen his miracles. They had done miracles in his name. They knew something palpably and objectively about the power and the reality of who Jesus, the Messiah, the Christ, was. And yet, just a couple days before, Jesus starts to talk about dying. And this was something so staggering to the disciples that they began to wonder if he really was the Messiah. And this is why, for that reason, why do you think Jesus took Peter, James, and John into a high mountain apart away from the other apostles? Jesus takes Peter, James, and John into a very secluded place and he begins to pray. He asks the disciples to pray. They all fall asleep. Then as they wake up, they see Jesus standing before them with an ineffable, indescribable manifestation of light and glory, which will be his when he reigns as king in days to come. And he had laid aside that external glory, and for just a few minutes as they watched, they saw him transfigured, right? The point is that if you look at the metaphor like as a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, Jesus was someone who so carefully veiled his physical glory, and he kind of just showed it for a brief moment. And the whole purpose of that experience was to reinforce the staggering faith of the apostles who were with Jesus for 3 years, witnessed and did so many miracles, but were so shocked by him saying he's going to die. And that's exactly what Peter gets out of it when he remembers it and says, we do not bring you, when Peter talks later on in the future, he talks about the power of Jesus because they were with him on the holy mount of Transfiguration. And they became absolute that he was the Messiah and he will reign as Messiah because they saw his physical glory. So it's kind of to strengthen the staggering faith that was they were struggling with. So Jesus, Peter, James, and John return from the mountain. They find the other apostles trying to drive a demon out of a man. So think about this. This is right after the Transfiguration. They come down, look at other apostles trying to drive a demon out of a man, and they were unable to do so. And when they ask why it didn't work, Jesus says because of their staggering faith, right? So you kind of see the connections now, right? The connections was they were super strong, doing miracles. They knew that there was power in Christ. Jesus says that he's going to die. It shook them. Then Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up, shows a transfiguration to show them this is right, this is true. When they come down, they see the staggering faith because they try to drive out a demon. Jesus is like, this is because your faith is staggering. This was Jesus' message, that he was going to die, and that's exactly what the Transfiguration is all about. In such an interesting, compelling way, the Transfiguration illustrates what a careful, sensitive, creative, and resourceful teacher Jesus was, and he really wanted everyone to be successful, right? He was trying to get his impending death across to the disciples, and he just sees how desperately crippled they are by the announcement. So he is sensitive enough some days later to provide that sort of a condescending object lesson where God condescends to give him that physical glory just to reinforce their faith, right? It's a very, very interesting background if you really think about this, right? Because we're not thinking about those things. We don't think about all these events that are connecting together. But a lot of times we look at the background, we just look at everything as a standalone event. Oh, and then he did this, and he did this. But when you start to connect some of these events, you're like, oh, that's making a little bit more sense. Jesus came, people are starting to realize in their heads, not so much in their hearts. And the more and more they saw Jesus' miracles, the more that their hearts were strengthened, the more they had conviction in Christ. Then they started doing miracles in Jesus' name. They're like, wow, there's power in the name of Christ. They became even stronger. And then 3 years into the ministry, they find out all of a sudden Jesus says, oh, I'm going to die. But here's the person that they thought was God, the person they thought would never die, the person they thought would give strength and be with them forever and ever and ever is going to die soon. And they all began to stagger in their faith. And a few days later, Jesus thought it was the right thing to do to go out and take his close disciples to show them his glory, right? To strengthen that faith once again. And once that faith was strengthened, they came back down, and you get to realize how staggering their faith was from the announcement that Jesus said he was going to die. And how do we know that this faith was that staggering? Well, think about it. After Jesus officially died on the cross, everyone went back to their own jobs. They went to their homes. They thought it was all over. They didn't think it was going to happen like this. They thought it was going to be a glory, like a history just laden in glory constantly. And when you think about this, don't you think that's kind of similar to our situation right now, where people are thinking what's supposed to happen with this history? That son seems alive, but then now he's going through a second trial, and we're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Why is it like this? And then it's something that's so shocking to us that even our faiths are beginning to stagger. And we have to realize, just as we stagger because of all the stuff we went through in 2022, 2021, things that happened for the 10 years from 2008 to 2018, all those things happen. And once they're over, we think it's done and we think that nothing bad's going to happen. And then when it keeps getting bad and worse or whatever it is, we start to stagger even more in our faith. But we have to realize to that next level. It was never to do with how good the situation is doing. We know that history is something that's not going to run like all of a sudden it's going to spike. No, it's a gradual history that takes time. And especially when Sun seems living, don't you think that Satan's going to attack him more than ever? In the future, Provi is going to be huge. In the future, 100 years, 500 years, 700 years, it's going to be huge. But we are living at the time, right? We're living at the time just like the time when Jesus was living. And instead of them accepting Jesus, what did they do instead? They went against, persecuted. They slandered him. They tried to find everything until they killed him. They never stopped. So even when you look at what's happened so far, as long as Sun seems alive, they're not going to stop. At the time of Jesus, they didn't stop until he died. Which means all of us too, we have to think to ourselves is, do you think they're going to stop while Sun seems living? And the answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's why we have to be very strong in our faith. And that's why we have to realize even more deeply what is happening at this time by comparing it to the time of, paralleling it to the time of the parts in the Bible in Jesus' life too. And that's something that we have to realize to that level. Right? It's not going to be all hunky-dory. It's not going to be better, like so amazing and great. It's not. Until he dies, the attacks are going to come constantly. And if that's the case, we have to think to ourselves then what's going to be the best situation? Like what will be the best situation for Sunstein, right? And we have to pray that God's will be done, just like Jesus did. Let your will be done, not my own. And I hope that could be our prayer when we're praying for Sunstein too, especially with the trial coming up in 5 days, right? The first real trial date is going to be, I think it's December 18th, right? And I hope that's something that all of us will be really praying for and seeing the situation in the best way possible, okay? So there it is, guys. That is the word study for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that segment of looking at the situation and background of the Mount of Transfiguration. Okay, so let's move into today's song of choice. And of course, it is December. We're getting closer and closer to Christmas. It's just 10, 11 days away. And I hope that everyone's going to enjoy this. So song of choice, we're getting into a lot more Christmas things. So today I'm going to play from one of my favorite artists because he's from Canada and from my hometown of Vancouver. Yes, it is Michael Bublé. And he's got a great Christmas album. And it's we're going to listen to the song. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. Take a look at the 5 and 10. It's glistening once again with candy canes and silver lanes that glow. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys in every store. But the prettiest sight to see is the holly that will be on your own front door. A pair of hop-along boots and a pistol that shoots is the wish of Barney and Ben. Dolls that'll talk and will go for a walk is the hope of Janice and Jen. And Mom and Dad can hardly wait for school to start again. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. There's a tree in the Grand Hotel, one in the park as well. It's the sturdy kind that doesn't mind the snow. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Soon the bells will start, and the thing that'll make them ring is the carol that you sing right within your heart. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys in every store, but the prettiest sight to see is the holly that will be on your own front door. Sure, it's Christmas once more.
And yes, it is beginning to feel a lot like Christmas now as we're listening to more of these Christmas songs. So I really enjoy that. He's got such a smooth crooner voice. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That's Michael Bublé from Vancouver, Canada. Great Christmas song. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, all right? So let's get into today's final segment. And of course, every Wednesday, there's Health is Happiness with Julius Miumo over there in Australia. Doing a great job with this too. And today, also, his main topic today is going to be on mulberry leaves. I don't know much about mulberry leaves, but when I think of mulberries, I don't know why I think about Christmas for some reason. But let's hear all the healthy properties and how great it is to be eating mulberry leaves, or I'm not sure if it's tea or whatever it is, but I'm looking forward to this, right? Everyone, please welcome Julius from Australia with Health is Happiness.
Hi everyone, Julius here, and welcome to the Health is Happiness segment. We're back again on this Wednesday morning, and I'm once again very much looking forward to sharing what I've learned with all of you today. Now, this is episode 21, and today we'll be continuing on with the series on What Did Sansanim Say? Today's segment will be on mulberry leaves. So we're going to go back all the way to November 2019, when Sansanim gave a message called God, the Holy Spirit, and the Lord testify to the extent that they will know the Lord. In this message, Sansanim mentioned mulberry leaves. And it was a very brief part of the message, but we're going to take a look at what he said. Keep in mind, this is a paraphrase from my notes. So here goes. Find the mulberry trees where the leaves have turned yellow due to frost. When the leaves are boiled, they are very good for those with high blood pressure and high blood sugars. And there you have it. Now, before we go into the research, I want to share a bit about the background of mulberry trees. Mulberry is a fast-growing tree yielding small red, purple, or black berries from the late spring throughout the summer. The tree is native to China. This tree, however, is now cultivated in many regions, including the United States, Europe, Asia, and Africa. The berries have a sweet and tangy taste, which go really well with smoothies or Greek yogurt. The berries themselves have significant concentrations of vitamins, minerals, and powerful plant compounds. For centuries, its leaves have been used in traditional medicine as a natural treatment for a variety of conditions. They are loaded with powerful plant compounds like polyphenols, antioxidants, as well as vitamin C, zinc, calcium, iron, potassium, phosphorus, and magnesium. Many people consume mulberry leaves without experiencing adverse side effects, although people can have a reaction to some of the milky white saps called latex that hang on the leaves, which is mildly toxic to humans. They are said to be very palatable and commonly used to make herbal teas. Young leaves can be eaten after cooking. So now that you have a bit more of an idea about mulberry leaves, I'm going to share the research I found regarding the health benefits that Sansini mentioned. In terms of high blood pressure, the study I found was done about 10 years ago from the International Journal of Pharmacology. It showed evidence of a connection between white mulberry and high blood pressure relief. To test the benefits of white mulberry on high blood pressure, researchers tested various doses of the plant on live animals. The findings from the study showed that white mulberry leaves does lower blood pressure and further lowers blood pressure with increasing or consistent dosages. Another study from PubMed was done on diabetic rats, which were given mulberry leaf extracts. It was found that it significantly reduced blood glucose levels, also significantly decreasing the high blood pressure. Despite these findings, most of the studies did conclude that still more research was needed for mulberry leaf extract to see if they can potentially be used as a practical form of treatment for such cardiometabolic risk factors. Meanwhile, in terms of blood sugars, the studies appeared to be a bit more conclusive. Today I'll refer to just two of the studies that I found. One of the studies came from the PubMed National Library of Medicine and the other from the American Diabetes Association. Research was done on the mulberry leaf extract to see if it improves glucose tolerance and decreases insulin concentrations in adults aged 19 to 60. The test subjects had non-diabetic symptoms and had healthy glucose response. The results came from a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. So for one study, they used sucrose, which is table sugar, and the other they used maltodextrin, which both increase blood glucose very quickly. The studies found that mulberry leaf extract significantly reduced total blood glucose rise after ingestion of the sugar over 120 minutes, in comparison to placebo. Importantly, total insulin rises were also significantly suppressed over the same time period. Peak to trough fluctuations in blood glucose were markedly reduced by mulberry ingestion. In short, one can infer that the spike and crash of blood sugars decrease significantly post-mealtime if it's taken with mulberry leaf extract, or the herbal tea version. With that being said, the PubMed study still concluded that mulberry extract may have multiple modes of action, and further studies are necessary to evaluate mulberry extract as a potential target for the prevention of type 2 diabetes and regulation of dysglycemia. The ADA also found that there were no significant reductions in A1C concentrations, which is an important indicator for diabetic symptoms. In short, mulberry leaves do significantly impact high blood glucose. Further research is still being done on how to practically use it as a potential form of treatment for diabetic conditions. Although mulberry leaf has largely been shown to be safe in both human and animal studies, it may lead to side effects in some people. For example, some people have reported adverse effects such as diarrhea, nausea, dizziness, bloating, and constipation when taking supplements. This will vary from person to person. So further studies need to be done for prolonged use. Therefore, children and pregnant or breastfeeding women should avoid taking it due to insufficient safety research, particularly on supplements. Although the herbal tea has been used in the East for a long time safely, still, individuals taking diabetic medications should consult a health professional before trying mulberry leaf, since it has such significant effects on blood sugar levels. So there you have it. It's a bit of a short episode today, but I hope you all enjoyed it. If you would like me to elaborate on particular points, please drop a comment below. Next episode of Health is Happiness, we'll be starting a new series on anti-aging. I'm very much looking forward to doing this. Thanks again, and see you next time.
And thank you so much, Julius, for another wonderful segment of Health is Happiness. And today we learned about mulberry leaves. Hope all of you guys received a lot of information, and it helps you guys out to become even more healthy people. This is great. I'm thankful we have some physical health on this, and I hope that you guys will really, really enjoy your Wednesday service tonight. Maybe have some mulberry leaves before, right? Everyone, enjoy your service tonight, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly, so let's realign. Just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm